The queen gazed at the warrior and asked, "Who is he?" The princess smiled. "My man." The twin sons of Zerathia had barely risen, but the colony already hummed with activity. Smoke from the cooking fires mingled with the faint mist rolling over the jagged cliffs, casting an orange-gold glow over the small settlement. Humans had been here for years, sent as explorers and builders, but life on this alien world was not easy. The local population, the Zerathians, were taller than humans, with pale silver skin that shimmered faintly in the sunlight and eyes like polished sapphires. They were proud and noble, yet wary of outsiders. Princess Leora moved quietly through the main square, her long robe brushing the ground. She liked to observe the colony in the early hours, before most Zerathians were awake. The humans worked diligently alongside the Zerathians, digging water channels, repairing shelters, and fortifying defenses. It was a fragile harmony, built on necessity and mutual respect. Yet beneath the calm surface, tension always lingered. Rumors of raids by the hostile Vexarites had reached the colony again, whispers of fire, destruction, and stolen resources. Leora's attention was drawn to the edge of the valley, where a small transport craft had just landed. Its hull bore the markings of a human expedition team, but its lone occupant was unlike any visitor she had seen before. A man stepped out, tall, broad-shouldered, with short dark hair and eyes that seemed to measure everything at once. His movements were calm and precise, as though every step had purpose. He carried no excessive weaponry, only a modest pack slung over his shoulder, yet an aura of quiet strength surrounded him. The queen had instructed her guards to approach cautiously, but curiosity was irresistible. The princess followed at a distance, her sapphire eyes studying the stranger with a mixture of fascination and caution. As the guards greeted him, the man raised his hands in a simple gesture of peace, speaking in clear, measured words that even the Zerathians could understand thanks to translation devices. "I am Captain Kale," he said. "I received your distress signal. I have come to help." The words were simple, but they carried weight. Kale did not boast, nor did he demand authority, yet there was an unmistakable confidence in his voice, the kind that made people listen. The queen's chief advisor, a stern Zerathian named Korvax, stepped forward. "Humans are many things," he said, his voice cold, "but we do not welcome warriors lightly. How do we know you come with honorable intentions?" Kale smiled faintly. "I do not ask for your trust blindly," he said. "I am willing to prove it. Let me help organize your defenses. Let me show you what I can do." Leora felt a strange flutter in her chest. She had always admired courage, but something about this man seemed different. He was not brash or arrogant. He did not demand praise. He simply offered his skill, and somehow that made him remarkable. Over the next hours, Kale moved among the colony with quiet efficiency. He observed the layout of their shelters, the storage of their food and water, and the placement of their weapons. He spoke to the militia, giving advice on how to organize patrols and fortify weak points. Humans and Zerathians alike began to listen. They noticed that the man's strategies were simple but effective. He encouraged cooperation, urging them to use their strengths together rather than separately. By midday, the queen herself arrived to observe. She was a tall, regal figure, her silver hair pulled into a braided crown. Her eyes, sharp and calculating, studied Kale as he instructed a group of young soldiers on using energy shields to create defensive barriers. When she approached, he did not bow, but he turned politely and met her gaze. "Your Majesty," Kale said simply, "I am here to help, not to rule." The queen studied him for a long moment, intrigued. There was a calm authority in him, a balance of strength and humility that was rare. "And yet you have already begun organizing our people. You give orders and they follow." Kale shook his head. "I do not give orders. I suggest actions. I hope they will be useful." The queen allowed a small smile, the first she had shown in weeks. Her daughter, standing slightly behind her, also watched closely. Leora's eyes followed Kale as he moved through the square, helping a group of humans repair a broken transport vehicle, then directing Zerathians to strengthen a wall that had been damaged in a recent storm. Every action was deliberate, every word measured, yet the effect was clear. People were working together more efficiently than they had in months. By evening, Kale had earned the trust of nearly the entire colony. Fires burned brighter, children laughed as they played near the fortified walls, and soldiers trained under his guidance with renewed determination. Even the Queen's advisors, who had been skeptical at first, found themselves nodding at his recommendations. Leora found herself lingering near him as he examined a damaged water channel. "You seem different from the humans I've heard about," she said softly, careful not to draw attention. Kale glanced at her, his expression gentle but attentive. "Different how?" "You are calm," she admitted. "You do not brag or threaten. You do not treat the Zorathians as lesser beings. You listen." Kale considered her words. "Listening is often more useful than speaking," he said simply. "Understanding before acting prevents mistakes." Leora smiled, a small, secret smile that she did not bother hiding. "I like that," she said. The sun dipped below the jagged horizon, casting long shadows over the colony. Kale took a moment to look around, his gaze sweeping over the humans and Zorathians working side by side. It was a fragile harmony, but for the first time he sensed hope. The colony had potential. With guidance, determination, and cooperation, they could not only survive, they could thrive. A sudden alarm cut through the evening calm. Red lights flashed across the walls, signaling an incoming Vexarite scout vessel. Panic rippled through the colony. Humans scrambled to weapons, and Zorathians moved to defensive positions. Kale did not panic. He moved quickly, directing humans to reinforce the perimeter while instructing Zorathians on defensive formations that made use of the terrain. "Do not fight alone," he shouted. "Work together, cover each other's weaknesses." The scouts descended, fast and relentless, but the colony was ready. Shields glimmered, energy blasts lit the sky, and the scouts were forced to retreat after a brief skirmish. The defenders cheered, exhilarated by their success, but Kale's eyes remained vigilant. This was only the beginning. Princess Leora ran to him, breathless. "You saved us," she exclaimed. Kale shook his head. "We saved ourselves together. You have brave people here. I only helped them see it." Leora felt a surge of admiration she could not deny. You are remarkable." Kale looked at her, faintly amused. "I am only human. I do what humans do best. We adapt, we endure, and we protect those who cannot protect themselves." The Queen watched from a distance, her eyes narrowing thoughtfully. There was something about this human warrior that went beyond skill. He inspired people, commanded respect without demanding it, and seemed to see the true value of life. Her daughter had smiled at him already, and she sensed that this warrior would leave a mark, not only on Leora, but on the colony as a whole. Night fell, and the twin moons rose over the horizon. Fires burned in the village, casting golden reflections across the silver rooftops. Kale stood at the edge of the square, looking out at the colony he had just begun to protect. For a human far from home, the challenges were immense, yet he did not flinch. He felt something stir within him, an unspoken connection to this alien world, its people, and to the princess who had watched him with those curious, bright eyes. And for the first time, Princess Leora understood that her heart had found someone extraordinary, someone who would not only fight beside them, but inspire them to reach for something greater. The colony had found its hope, and Kale had found his purpose. The war with the Vexarites had only just begun, but together, humans and Zorathians might stand stronger than anyone could have imagined. And as the Queen gazed at the human warrior from afar, her curiosity deepened. Who was this man who could change the hearts of her people without arrogance, without force, without fear? She did not yet know, but she would learn soon enough. And when the princess smiled and whispered to her mother, "He is my man," it was a statement of trust, of admiration, and of a future yet to be written. The twin moons shone brighter, and the colony slept, unaware that the arrival of a single human warrior would change the fate of their world forever. The morning air was crisp over the cliffs of Zorathia, carrying the scent of alien flora and the faint tang of minerals from the mountains. Humans and Zorathians alike moved with purpose, repairing defenses, restocking supplies, and training for the next encounter with the Vexarites. Captain Kale walked among them, observing quietly, correcting mistakes with gentle words rather than harsh commands. He had already earned respect through his actions, and now it was time to solidify trust. Princess Leora followed him again, though she kept a careful distance, letting the others focus on their work. She was fascinated by the way Kale moved through the colony, analyzing everything with precision. He spoke to everyone, humans and Zorathians alike, with patience, explaining strategies in simple language so everyone could understand. Even the youngest recruits began to grasp complex defensive maneuvers. Why do they listen to you so well? Leora asked softly, finally catching up to him near a training ground. Kale glanced at her, his expression calm. Because I treat them as equals, he replied. People fight harder when they know someone respects them. Fear can only take you so far, but trust lasts. Leora smiled, impressed. You make it sound easy, but I know it is not. He shook his head. Nothing worth doing is easy, but it is possible. That is enough. The princess felt a warmth in her chest, a mixture of admiration and something deeper she could not yet name. Kale's presence was different from anyone she had known. He did not seek attention, nor did he crave recognition. He simply acted, and people naturally followed. By midday, Kale had organized a simulation of a Vexarite attack. He paired human soldiers with Zarathian fighters, placing them in positions that challenged their understanding of the terrain and their combat abilities. The exercise was rigorous, yet Kale guided them patiently, correcting mistakes without scolding and offering praise where it was due. Keep moving. Don't let the Vexarite scouts surround you, he called, moving quickly from one point to another. Remember what we practiced. Work as one unit. The participants began to move more fluidly, adapting to each other's strengths. The humans provided tactical flexibility and quick decision-making, while the Zarathians used their natural agility and heightened senses. Slowly, a sense of unity formed among them. The simulation ended successfully, and the trainees cheered, proud of their achievement. Leora approached Kale, her eyes shining. They are learning from you, she said. Not just skills, but confidence. Kale looked at her, a faint smile touching his lips. Confidence comes from understanding. People fight best when they know why they fight, not just how. Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden alert. A scout team reported unusual activity in the northern cliffs, far beyond the colony's perimeter. Kale immediately analyzed the situation. It could be a small raiding party or a reconnaissance group, he said. We cannot underestimate them. Prepare a patrol and I will accompany them. The patrol assembled quickly, composed of both human and Zarathian fighters. Kale led them with precise instructions, emphasizing coordination and communication. The path was narrow and treacherous, with sharp rocks jutting from the cliffs and loose gravel underfoot. Yet Kale moved confidently, scanning the surroundings and anticipating potential ambush points. As they approached the reported location, signs of the Vexarites became evident: scorched ground, broken plants, and faint footprints. Kale knelt to examine the tracks, tracing them carefully. They are testing our defenses, he said. They want to see how fast we react, how coordinated we are. This is not an attack. It is a probe. The patrol set up an ambush, hiding along the edges of a narrow pass. Hours passed in tense silence, every movement amplified by the stillness of the alien landscape. Then finally, the Vexarites appeared. A small group, about a dozen in number, moved cautiously along the path, scanning for traps. Kale whispered instructions, guiding the patrol into position. Wait for my signal. Do not engage until necessary. Observe first, then strike with precision. The ambush was swift and effective. Using coordinated maneuvers, the patrol incapacitated the Vexarites without unnecessary harm. They captured a few for questioning and forced the rest to retreat. The patrol returned to the colony victorious, but Kale did not allow celebration to distract him. He immediately began debriefing the team, analyzing every step and discussing improvements. Leora met him afterward, concern evident on her face. You seem always alert, she said. Do you ever rest? Kale looked at her thoughtful. Rest is important, yes, he admitted. But vigilance is part of protecting people. I cannot rest while others may be in danger. Her admiration deepened. There was something about him, his sense of duty, his courage, and his calmness under pressure, that was unlike anyone she had known. She wanted to speak, to tell him how she felt, but she held back, unsure if it was appropriate. Yet every glance, every shared moment drew them closer without words. The following days passed in a rhythm of training, repairs, and patrols. Kale continued to teach, inspiring the humans and Zarathians alike. He was patient, methodical, and tireless. Slowly, the colony began to feel more secure. Morale improved, and the people began to believe that perhaps they could face the Vexarites and survive. One evening, as Kale and Leora walked along the cliffs overlooking the valley, the twin moons cast silver light across the landscape. The humans and Zarathians below moved about their tasks, a scene of harmony and determination. You have changed this place, Leora said quietly. Kale glanced at her, expression unreadable. We changed it together, I only guided, the people did the work. She smiled, a soft and private expression. You always give credit to others, that is rare. He nodded. I believe in people, I believe in potential. That is what matters, not recognition, not glory, but what can be built together. They paused at the cliff's edge, the wind gently tugging at Leora's robe. Do you ever wonder why humans are always sent so far from home? She asked. Kale looked out at the horizon, thoughtful. Perhaps because humanity is adaptable. We learn, we survive, we endure. We are often placed in challenges that others cannot face. And sometimes, we are needed to remind others of what courage and ingenuity can achieve. Leora studied him, her eyes reflecting the moonlight. There was a depth in him that went beyond simple bravery. He was wise, yet humble, strong, yet gentle. And she knew, without fully understanding why, that he was unlike anyone she would ever meet again. A sudden commotion below drew their attention. A group of children had wandered too close to the edge of a cliff during a training exercise. Without hesitation, Kale sprang into action, signaling to a nearby Zarathian to assist, and they guided the children to safety. Leora watched, heart pounding, as he moved with calm precision, his presence reassuring even in a moment of danger. You save lives without needing praise, she whispered. Kale looked at her, and for a brief moment the weight of responsibility seemed to lift from his shoulders. I save lives because it is right, not for thanks, he said. The incident reminded the colony of the human warrior's unwavering dedication. His actions were more than skill. They were a statement of character, a demonstration that humans could bring not only strength, but morality and honor to alien worlds. Over the next week, Kale helped organize a diplomatic meeting with neighboring alien factions. The goal was to form alliances and secure trade routes, as well as to prepare for potential large-scale attacks from the Vexarites. Kale's influence was evident. His calm demeanor, strategic mind, and fair judgment encouraged Zarathians to trust and cooperate with others. The Queen observed these meetings from a distance. Her curiosity about Kale had grown into cautious respect. She saw the way he inspired her people without dominating them, how he earned loyalty through deeds rather than words, and how the princess looked at him with admiration and joy. One evening, after a long day of strategy discussions, Kale and Leora found themselves alone again on the cliffs. The twin moons reflected on the water below, casting a magical glow. Why do you care so much for others? Leora asked softly. Kale paused, considering. Because if I do not, who will? Courage is not enough on its own. Strength is not enough. Compassion and responsibility make courage meaningful. I fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. Leora smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. You are extraordinary. He looked at her, faintly amused. I am human. That is what humans do best. We protect, we endure, and we rise to challenges. She laughed softly. And you do it all so naturally. It is inspiring. As the colony slept beneath them, Kale and Leora stood together, the quiet wind brushing past them, sharing a silent understanding. Their bond was forming, unspoken but undeniable. Humanity's influence had begun to shape Zarathia, not through conquest, but through courage, wisdom, and the integrity of a single warrior. And the Queen watched from afar, curiosity and respect mingling in her gaze. She did not yet fully understand the depth of Kale's character, but she could sense the truth. This human warrior was different. He was not only brave and capable, but also noble in a way that transcended species. And slowly, she began to see why her daughter had already begun to smile whenever he was near. The nights passed, and with each sunrise, the colony grew stronger, united under the quiet leadership of a human warrior whose presence had already begun to inspire hope, courage, and loyalty. The story of Captain Kale was only beginning, but the impact of his arrival was clear. Humans could change worlds, not through dominance, but through heart, intelligence, and honor. The colony awoke to the shrill alarm of incoming vessels. The twin suns had barely risen, casting pale light over Zarathia's cliffs, yet the warning system screamed across the settlement. Kale was already on his feet, scanning the horizon. A fleet of Vexarite ships, larger and faster than the scouts from before, was approaching. The humans and Zarathians had trained for this moment, but the size and speed of the fleet made the threat real and terrifying. Kale moved quickly, giving instructions in calm, precise tones. Prepare defensive positions. Humans on the outer perimeter, Zarathians closer to the center. Keep communication lines open. No one acts alone. His voice carried authority, but never harshness. People moved efficiently, inspired by his composure. Princess Leora ran beside him, holding a communicator. Captain Kale, the southern ridge is vulnerable. The scouts could flank us there. Kale glanced toward the ridge. Good eye, split a team of humans and Zarathians to cover it. Use terrain to your advantage. Lead them carefully. I'll coordinate the rest. The queen, observing from the palace balcony, watched as the humans and Zarathians worked in unison under Kale's guidance. She noticed how naturally he inspired collaboration, how quickly the fighters responded to his directions. For the first time, she truly understood why her daughter admired him. The Vexarite fleet descended swiftly, their ships dark and angular, casting shadows over the cliffs. The colony's defenders were ready, shields and turrets primed. Kale moved along the lines, checking positions, offering quick guidance and ensuring every fighter knew their role. The first wave of Vexarite drones attacked the perimeter. Kale had anticipated this. Hold your ground. Focus fire on the drones in sequence. Conserve energy for larger threats. The defenders acted as one. Humans used precision targeting. Zarathians relied on agility and energy-based weaponry, and Kale coordinated the efforts with remarkable efficiency. Drones were destroyed before they could breach the walls. The colony held, but Kale knew this was only the beginning. As the main Vexarite ships approached, Kale signaled for a second defensive formation. Layered defense, humans at the front with shields, Zarathians in support. Use the cliffs for cover. The ships fired energy blasts, and the defenders absorbed the impact with combined human-Zarathian tactics. Kale's strategy was unconventional for the colony, yet it worked. The Vexarites were forced to adjust, giving the defenders the upper hand. Amid the chaos, Kale noticed a group of civilians trapped near the lower valley. Without hesitation, he sprinted toward them, motioning for a small Zarathian team to follow. Move carefully but quickly, keep low and stay together. The civilians trembled with fear, but Kale's calm presence reassured them. We will get through this, he said, guiding them to a safe area behind reinforced walls. Leora ran beside him, holding the children's hands and whispering comforting words. The queen watched silently, heart tightening at the sight of her daughter and Kale risking themselves for others. She could see the bond forming between them, undeniable even in the heat of battle. Her curiosity deepened, but she also felt respect. Kale was proving himself not just as a warrior, but as a protector and leader. Back at the main line, Kale directed the defenders to target weak points in the Vexarite formation. Split their focus, force them into narrow passes. Use gravity shifts to slow their advance. The strategy worked. The Vexarites, used to attacking uncoordinated colonies, found themselves countered at every turn. The defenders moved like a single organism, humans and Zarathians anticipating each other's actions. Kale's leadership had not only saved lives, it had transformed the colony into a fighting force. During a brief pause in the battle, Kale noticed a large Vexarite commander landing on a ridge. It was a creature larger than any he had faced before, armored and armed with advanced weaponry. The commander's presence threatened to break the morale of the defenders. Focus all fire on the commander, Kale shouted. Use concentrated energy bursts, don't scatter. Protect each other. The humans and Zarathians obeyed, and with coordinated effort, they managed to force the commander to retreat temporarily. Kale saw the moment as an opportunity to teach the fighters. Even the strongest opponent can be defeated with unity. Never underestimate teamwork, he reminded them. Princess Leora, standing nearby, watched Kale move among the fighters, his presence a beacon of calm determination. She realized that admiration alone was not enough. She felt a deeper connection to him. His courage, humility, and ability to inspire others were unlike anything she had seen. The battle raged for hours, energy blasts lighting the sky, ships maneuvering for position, and fighters risking everything to protect their home. Kale moved tirelessly, guiding, supporting, and occasionally engaging directly when a defender was in danger. At one point, he saved a young Zarathian soldier from a falling debris, lifting him out of harm's way without a second thought. The soldier looked up at him, eyes wide, and whispered a grateful word. Kale nodded, encouraging him to return to his position. By the time the twin suns dipped toward the horizon, the Vexarites began to retreat. Their fleet was damaged, morale shaken, and they had failed to breach the colony. Exhausted but triumphant, the humans and Zarathians cheered. They had survived a major assault, and it was Kale's leadership that had made the difference. The Queen descended to meet him as he inspected the perimeter one final time. Her presence commanded attention, but her expression was softer than before. "Captain Kale," she said, voice steady, "your skill and courage have saved this colony today. I watched how you led our people. You have my respect." Kale bowed slightly. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I only did what was necessary to protect them. They fought bravely, and without their cooperation, none of this would have been possible." The Queen nodded thoughtfully, then glanced at her daughter. Leora's smile was proud and genuine, her eyes shining as she looked at Kale. The Queen finally understood the connection between them, a bond forged not by words, but by shared courage and mutual respect. As night fell, the colony began to recover. Wounded fighters were treated, damaged structures repaired, and a sense of relief settled over the people. Kale walked through the settlement quietly, checking on everyone, offering encouragement and guidance. Princess Leora joined him once more. "You were incredible today," she said, her voice soft with admiration. Kale shook his head. "Incredible is not the right word. We survived together. That is what matters." She looked at him, her heart full. "You inspire everyone around you, Captain Kale, not just with strength, but with courage, wisdom, and care. That is extraordinary." Kale met her gaze, a faint, humble smile on his face. "I am only human. Humans do what is necessary. Sometimes that inspires others, sometimes it does not. Today it did. That is all." The princess nodded, understanding more than words could express. She realized that Kale was unlike anyone she had ever met. A man who led without ego, who fought without cruelty, and who cared deeply for others. Her admiration had grown into something more profound, though she did not yet speak it aloud. The Queen observed them from the palace balcony, her expression unreadable but thoughtful. She knew that Kale's presence had changed not only her daughter but the colony itself. Humanity had proven its value on Zarathia, not through domination or power, but through courage, intelligence, and heart. As the twin moons rose once more, Kale stood near the cliffs, looking out over the valley. Fires burned softly in the settlement below, shadows dancing across the walls. The people were safe, at least for now. Yet Kale knew this victory was only temporary. The Vexarites would return, stronger and more determined. Preparation and vigilance would be required for every day to come. Leora approached silently, joining him at the edge of the cliff. "Do you ever think about home?" she asked. Kale glanced at her. "Sometimes, but home is where people need me. Here on Zarathia, there are people who depend on courage, guidance, and protection. That is my home for now." She nodded, understanding. "You are a remarkable human, Kale. I am glad you are here." He looked at her, a faint amusement in his eyes. "I am glad to be here too, Princess Leora. There is much to be done, and together we can make a difference." The night was calm now, but the memory of the battle lingered in every mind. The humans and Zarathians had faced a great challenge and emerged victorious, and the presence of Captain Kale had made all the difference. His courage, wisdom, and integrity had not only saved lives, but inspired the entire colony. And somewhere in the shadows, the Vexarites regrouped, unaware that the human warrior they underestimated would become the key to defending Zarathia, and perhaps even changing the course of the planet's future. For now, Kale, Leora, and the colony rested, knowing that humanity's presence had left an indelible mark. The HFY spirit had proven its strength, and with each passing day, Kale's influence and leadership would continue to shape the destiny of Zarathia. The day after the Vexarite attack, the colony of Zarathia was alive with a quiet determination. The streets bustled with humans and Zarathians working side by side, repairing buildings, tending to the wounded, and strengthening defenses. Though exhaustion hung over everyone, the victory had given them confidence. Kale moved among them, observing, advising, and encouraging. He didn't need to speak loudly. His presence alone inspired focus and determination. Princess Leora walked beside him, carrying supplies to a group of children who were helping rebuild shelters. She had spent the night worrying, but seeing Kale calm and composed had reassured her. Even when surrounded by chaos, he seemed steady, a rock in the storm. "You were remarkable yesterday," she said softly, handing a tool to a young Zarathian apprentice. Kale shook his head. "I was only part of it. Everyone did their part." Courage is not just one person's, it is shared. Leora smiled, her eyes reflecting both admiration and something deeper. You inspire people to be brave and to trust each other. He glanced at her, studying her expression. Then we are accomplishing something important, not just defending walls, but building unity. As they worked, the queen appeared, her long robe flowing behind her. She had observed Kale closely during the battle, noting his intelligence, composure, and humility. She had also noticed her daughter's fascination with him, and it stirred a mixture of curiosity and concern. Approaching him directly required courage, but the queen was no stranger to difficult conversations. "Captain Kale," she said, her voice steady but curious. "I have watched you carefully these past days. You have done more than protect our colony, you have changed it." Kale turned to face her, bowing slightly. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I am only trying to help in the ways I can." The queen studied him for a long moment. "You are unlike any human I have encountered. Calm in chaos, humble in victory, and yet commanding respect without demanding it. Tell me, why do you do this?" Kale considered his answer. "Because it is the right thing to do. Courage without purpose is wasted. Strength without wisdom is dangerous, and if someone has the ability to help others, it is their responsibility to act." The queen nodded thoughtfully. She could see the truth in his words, and it impressed her. "You have my respect, Captain Kale. But there is something more, something in the way my daughter looks at you. Tell me honestly, what is your bond with her?" Kale's gaze shifted slightly toward Leora, who had been quietly observing. "Princess Leora is brave, intelligent, and wise beyond her years. We work together and I respect her greatly. I do not take her trust lightly." The queen's expression softened, though her mind remained cautious. She could sense the bond forming between Kale and her daughter, but she also understood that it was rooted in shared purpose, mutual respect, and admiration. "Then perhaps we are fortunate to have you here. Continue to protect this colony and guide my people. If your heart remains honorable, you will have my blessing." Kale inclined his head in acknowledgement. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I will not fail." Later that day, Kale gathered the colony's leaders for a planning session. The Vexarite attack had revealed weaknesses in their defenses, and Kale was determined to address them before another strike. Humans and Zarathians sat side by side, listening intently as he explained new strategies. "Do not rely solely on walls or weapons," he said. "Strength comes from preparation, coordination, and understanding your enemy. Anticipate their moves, adapt, and work together. That is how we survive." He demonstrated maneuvers that combined human tactics with Zarathian agility, showing how they could outsmart the Vexarites even when outnumbered. The leaders practiced under his guidance, learning to trust each other and themselves. During a break, Leora approached him quietly. "You make it all seem so possible," she said, "even when the enemy seems overwhelming." Kale smiled faintly. "It is not impossible. It requires focus, cooperation, and courage. The rest will follow." She nodded, feeling a sense of peace in his presence. For the first time since the colony had faced real danger, she felt hope, not just for survival, but for the future they could build together. That evening, as the twin moons rose, Kale and Leora walked along the cliffs overlooking the valley. Fires burned softly below, casting long shadows. The battle had been won, but Kale knew the Vexarites would return. Preparation and vigilance would always be necessary. "Do you ever think about the humans you left behind?" Leora asked softly. Kale glanced at her, thoughtful. "Sometimes, but they understand why I am here. My place is where I am needed most. Here on Zarathia, the people depend on courage, guidance, and protection. That is where I belong for now." She looked at him, admiration and warmth in her eyes. "You do not seek glory, yet people follow you willingly. That is extraordinary." He shook his head, a faint smile touching his lips. "I am only human. Humans do what is necessary. Sometimes that inspires others. Sometimes it does not. Today it did. That is enough." Over the next several days, Kale continued to strengthen the colony. He trained the militia, organized patrols, and coordinated resource distribution. He also spent time with the children, teaching them basic survival skills and strategy games that helped them think critically. His presence had transformed the colony, instilling confidence, unity, and hope. Princess Leora spent as much time with him as she could. They shared meals, trained together, and discussed tactics for the colony's defense. Their conversations were natural and comfortable, filled with shared curiosity and mutual respect. Slowly, their bond deepened, though neither spoke of it directly. One afternoon, Kale noticed a group of young Zarathians struggling to carry supplies. Without hesitation, he rushed to help, lifting heavy crates and showing them the safest path. Leora followed, carrying smaller loads and encouraging the children. The scene warmed the hearts of the nearby villagers, who whispered among themselves about the remarkable human warrior who had earned the trust and admiration of both humans and Zarathians. The queen observed from the palace, her thoughts complex. She had grown to respect Kale's abilities and character. She saw the bond between him and Leora, and though protective, she understood that it was founded on more than mere attraction. It was mutual respect, trust, and shared purpose, qualities she valued above all. That night, Kale and Leora walked once more along the cliffs. The twin moons reflected on the water below, silver light illuminating their path. "You have changed everything here," Leora said softly. "Not just through strength, but by showing people how to believe in themselves." Kale nodded. "Belief is the foundation of courage. Without it, even the strongest walls or weapons cannot save you. People need to know they can rely on each other and themselves." She smiled, feeling a surge of admiration and something deeper she could not yet name. "You are extraordinary, Kale, and I am glad you are here." He looked at her, calm and thoughtful. "I am glad too, Princess Leora. There is much work to do, and we will do it together. That is what matters." The night was quiet now, but the memory of the Vexarite attack lingered in every mind. The colony had faced a great challenge and emerged stronger because of Kale's leadership. His courage, wisdom, and integrity had not only saved lives, but inspired the entire community. And somewhere in the distance, the Vexarites regrouped, unaware that the human warrior they underestimated had become the key to defending Zarathia and shaping its future. For now, Kale, Leora, and the colony rested. Humanity's presence had left an indelible mark, proving that courage, intelligence, and heart could inspire hope even in the darkest times. The HFY spirit had shown its strength, and with each passing day, Kale's guidance and example would continue to unite and protect the people of Zarathia. The twin suns of Zarathia rose slowly over the cliffs, casting long golden beams across the colony. The morning air was thick with tension. Kale stood at the edge of the main plaza, surveying the settlement. Today, the Vexarites were returning, not just scouts, but their full force. Ships darkened the horizon, vast and imposing, their energy engines glowing ominously. Kale's jaw tightened, but his gaze remained calm. He turned to Princess Leora, who had arrived beside him with the queen following closely behind. "They are coming," he said simply. "We have prepared. We will face them together, and we will protect this colony." Leora nodded, determination shining in her eyes. "We trust you, Kale. Lead us, and we will follow." The queen, observing the human warrior who had earned her respect, inclined her head. "Captain Kale, the colony is in your hands. Guide them wisely and protect my daughter." "Your honor and courage have proven you capable." Kale's eyes met hers, calm and steady. "I will not fail, your majesty." The colony's defenders were ready. Humans and Zarathians had trained tirelessly under Kale's guidance, learning to work as one. Shields were in place, turrets primed, and energy barriers reinforced. Kale moved along the lines, giving final instructions and encouragement. "Stay focused," he said. "Trust in your training, trust in each other, and remember, we fight not for glory, but to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Every life here matters. Every action counts." The first wave of Vexarite ships descended, larger and faster than any before. They fired energy beams, but the defenders were ready. Humans coordinated with precision, firing countermeasures, while Zarathians used agility and natural abilities to avoid direct hits. Kale moved along the front lines, helping to redirect fire and reinforce weak points. A massive Vexarite commander landed near the southern ridge, its armor shimmering under the suns. Its presence was intimidating, but Kale did not flinch. He quickly assessed the terrain and devised a strategy. "Concentrate fire on the commander's weak points," he instructed. "Use terrain to limit their movement. Protect civilians first, then engage directly." The defenders executed the plan flawlessly. Humans provided suppressive fire while Zarathians flanked the commander. Kale led a small team to intercept its advance, coordinating movements with precision. The battle was intense, with energy blasts lighting the sky and the ground shaking from explosions. Yet Kale remained calm, guiding his team, protecting civilians, and ensuring that the colony held together. Princess Leora followed closely, assisting where she could, directing supplies and helping the wounded. Her presence inspired the defenders, showing that leadership could come from both courage and compassion. She glanced at Kale, admiration and something deeper reflected in her eyes. Every move he made was deliberate, every word calm, and every action heroic. The Vexarite commander attempted to break through the defensive line, but Kale anticipated the move. "Use the cliff edge," he shouted. "Force them into the narrow pass, limit their advantage." The defenders executed the maneuver, and the commander found itself trapped. Concentrated fire from humans and Zarathians weakened its armor until it could no longer advance. Kale moved in with precise strikes, ensuring the creature could not escape without harm. The Vexarites retreated, their fleet damaged and morale shaken. Victory was hard-earned. The colony had survived, and the Vexarites would think twice before returning. Exhausted but triumphant, the defenders cheered, lifting Kale on their shoulders briefly, though he waved them down. "We all fought together. Every one of you made this possible," he said. Princess Leora ran to him, smiling through tears of relief. "You saved us," she said softly. Kale shook his head. "We saved ourselves together. Courage, unity, and preparation. That is how we win." The Queen approached, her expression a mixture of pride and relief. "Captain Kale, your actions have ensured the survival of this colony. You have earned my respect and the trust of my people." Kale bowed slightly. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I only did what was necessary." The battle had forged stronger bonds than any words could express. Humans and Zarathians had learned to work as one, inspired by Kale's leadership, courage, and integrity. The colony was no longer merely surviving. It was thriving, united, and confident in its ability to face the future. In the days that followed, Kale helped rebuild and fortify the colony further. The people were more efficient, more cooperative, and more confident. Leora spent time with him, learning and assisting, but also sharing moments of quiet reflection. Their bond had grown stronger through shared danger, mutual respect, and admiration. One evening, Kale and Leora walked along the cliffs overlooking the valley. Fires glimmered below, the settlement alive with activity and hope. "You have changed this place," Leora said softly. "Not just with strength, but with wisdom, courage, and heart." Kale smiled faintly. "I only guided. The people did the work. I simply helped them see what they were capable of." She reached out, lightly touching his arm. "You inspire people, Kale. You make them believe in themselves." He looked at her, his gaze steady. "That is what humans do best. We endure, we protect, and sometimes we inspire. Today I am glad to have done both." The Queen watched from the palace balcony, her thoughts thoughtful. She had seen Kale's courage, leadership, and integrity firsthand. She also recognized the bond forming between him and her daughter. Unlike many humans she had encountered, he was honorable, compassionate, and wise beyond his years. It was clear that the princess's admiration was genuine, and that Kale was someone worthy of her trust and respect. A few days later, the Queen invited Kale to the palace for a formal audience. She seated herself regally, and Kale stood respectfully before her. "Captain Kale," she began, "you have proven yourself not only as a warrior, but as a leader, a protector, and a guide. You have earned the trust of my people, and my daughter admires you greatly. I wish to hear from you directly. What is your intention toward Princess Leora?" Kale met her gaze without hesitation. "Your Majesty, my intention is simple. I respect Princess Leora deeply. She is brave, wise, and kind. I seek no titles or power, only the opportunity to protect her, support her, and stand by her side. If she allows it, I wish to be a partner in her life and in the future of this colony." The Queen studied him carefully, then allowed a rare smile. "I believe you are honorable, Captain Kale. You have earned my trust, and you have my blessing." At that moment, Leora entered the room, smiling brightly. She moved toward Kale and took his hand gently. "Thank you," she said softly, "for everything, for protecting us, for teaching us, and for being here." Kale squeezed her hand gently, looking at her with quiet affection. "I only did what was right," he said, "and I am glad to do it with you." The Queen watched the exchange, satisfied that her daughter had found someone honorable and true. She knew the future would be safer and brighter with Kale by their side. As the days passed, the colony flourished under Kale's guidance and the unity of humans and Zarathians. Trade routes were secured, defenses strengthened, and training continued. Kale worked tirelessly, always calm, always vigilant, but he also shared quiet moments with Leora, building a bond founded on respect, trust, and shared experiences. One evening, standing together on the cliffs as the twin moons rose, Leora looked at Kale. "Do you ever think about your home Earth?" she asked. Kale gazed at the horizon, thoughtful. "Sometimes, but home is where people need me most. Here on Zarathia, my place is with those who rely on courage, guidance, and protection. This is my home now for as long as it is needed," she smiled softly. "And I am glad you are here, not just for the colony, but for me." Kale's eyes met hers, steady and calm. "And I am glad to be here, Princess Leora. Together we can face whatever comes. Today, tomorrow, and always." The twin moons cast silver light over the valley below. Fires burned in the settlement, children laughed, and the people moved confidently, their spirits high. Humanity's presence on Zarathia had proven its worth, not through conquest, but through courage, wisdom, and integrity. Captain Kale had shown the HFY spirit in action. He had saved lives, inspired hope, and earned the trust of an alien world. And in doing so, he had found something equally valuable, a connection with Princess Leora, a bond that promised a brighter future for both of them and for the colony they had fought to protect. The Queen looked on from her balcony one last time, satisfaction in her gaze. The colony was safe, united, and strong, and the human warrior whom she had once watched with curiosity had become a symbol of hope, courage, and honor. As night settled over Zarathia, Kale and Leora stood together, looking out over the valley, knowing that whatever challenges the future might hold, they would face them together. Humanity had proven itself worthy, and a new chapter had begun, for Kale, for Leora, and for the people of Zarathia.